Welcome to today's episode of the Really Real True podcast with your host, internet famous John Almanac.
Good evening. Today we have a very special guest with us, Patrick Fitzgerald, a guy who works a corporate job. As you know, I have never had any kind of corporate job, so I'm very curious for a glimpse at the corporate lifestyle. Welcome, Fitzgerald. Can I call you Patrick? No, I didn't come here to be disrespected like that. Sure, no offense intended. Fitzgerald. As you know, I have never had a corporate job, and I'm curious, how is the typical day for you? Well, every day is a bit different, but I'll give you the example of last Tuesday. It was a pretty regular day. I woke up at 7 a.m. as always. I got ready and drove 30 minutes to work. 30 minutes drive? You must live really far from office, no? Not really. It's only a 10 minutes walk, but the traffic is awful. Oh, why don't you walk to the office then? Because I need to keep the appearances. You don't want your colleagues to think you can't afford to drive. Oh yeah, I get it. And what happens after you get to the office? When I get to the office, the first thing I do is go to my designated system and turn it on. It's an old machine that takes about 15 minutes to fully turn on. When you say system, what system is that? It's an old Dell desktop. Please, let me clarify. In corporate, we call old computers as systems. Oh. So in meantime, I go to the coffee area and get some coffee. After 30 minutes of break, I go back to my system. The old Dell desktop? Yes, you're starting to get it. Nice. So I get to my system and I open my email. At that point, I had two emails waiting for me. The first one was from my boss, the manager, asking me to start working on a project. I was like, okay, sounds good. Time to start working. Then I read the second email. It was from my boss's boss, the senior manager, that said that project was actually low priority and that it was better if I was working a different project instead. So I was like, okay, sounds good, time to start working. So I was getting ready, making a list of required equipment when I get a third email. It was from my director, my boss's boss's boss. He thanked me for the disponibility to work on those projects. Sounds like a cool dude. But he needed to coordinate with my manager and senior manager. Told me to have a coffee break and they would let me know what will be my tasks shortly. Didn't you already have a coffee break in the morning? Yeah, but that one didn't count because my bosses don't know of it. Oh, okay. So I'm on my coffee break when I see I have a meeting schedule on my calendar with my bosses in 5 minutes. Already? Yeah, so I go back to my system shortly before the call starts. At that call, there were my three bosses and me. The director thanked me for joining the call and let me know the management team was still working on the work prioritizations for the day, and that they would schedule another call when the projects were properly defined. Okay, what happened then? Well, after a call, I had a 2 hours HR call. You know, it's important for them to inform us about work-related discrimination and how to avoid it. How was that call? I don't know. I muted the call and got some reading done. I've been reading Ancient Nuclear Physics by Dr. John Smith. Great book. Anyway, after that call, it was around 12 and I went for my lunch break. 1 hour that I have. Nothing special. I grabbed my food that my wife prepared for me and binned it. And went with the guys to the office canteen. You don't like your wife's food? Oh please, I don't want to look like I cannot afford to eat at the office canteen. I even carefully select what I was going to eat based on the price. Make sure the appearances are kept at the right level. How do you make that selection? Well, I pick food that is above average price, but not the most expensive. I mean, I don't want to look like I'm poor, but I also don't want my colleagues to think that I won the lottery or they'll start asking me for money. Okay. And after the lunch? Well, that was at around 2 p.m. when I finished lunch. At that moment, I had a department call. Apparently, the guys on top are not too happy with my department performance.
Really?
Yeah, they have been saying that we haven't been very efficient for a couple of years now. And now they want to hire a new department efficiency expert, someone that can bring the ability to streamline processes and bring tangible results. Just a consultant for about a year.
And do you think this can bring an improvement in your department?
Of course, it's important to have more people with significant reputation and visibility to the exterior. This way we can say that we are part of this new guy's team, making all other departments jealous, which will certainly raise morale on our own department.
Very well. Was there anything else discussed in that call?
Not really. After that call it was already around 3 p.m. and I went for my 30-minute break. I knew I had a very demanding call afterwards and it's important to take a bit of time to rest the mind before you go into these big meetings.
And how do you relax before these big meetings?
I went to the office bar, picked up my phone and spent the entire time scrolling Instagram.
Oh, and how did that big call went?
It was a tough call. You see, my department has contracted an outsourcing company to do some of the work. Now, I'm all okay for someone else to do my work, but the problem is that our annual bonuses are dependent on the department's spending and savings. So the question is how much I'm willing to let go of my bonus so I don't have to work so much.
Oh yeah, that is a tough decision.
And it's not just that, because I'm not the only person in that department. If it was just me, I would say one number and that would be that, but there are people in the department that they wouldn't mind getting no bonus at all, just so they wouldn't have to work so much.
Some people, right?
And the worst of them all is those that wouldn't mind to work the entire time without any outsource at all, saying it's a waste of department money and that our workload is really not that bad.
How do you deal in a situation like that?
We have to negotiate. We have to negotiate a lot. In the end, I got what I wanted. I had to pull some strings with a couple of my colleagues, but they accepted that some of them will have to work a bit more and some of them will have to have a bit less bonus.
That time it was almost time to go out, right?
Yes, that is true, but I still received an invite for a call with my 3 bosses. My director started by thanking me for taking the call.
Cool guy.
And then they proceeded to explain my next project tasks. I asked them if they could send me an email with all the instructions. They said sure, and I received it shortly after the call. At that point, it was already the end of the day, so I just cleaned up my desk and left. It was a long day.
Sure it was, but at least now you had all your tasks for the next day and you could start working on them the first thing next day, right?
Yeah, and next day when I arrived to the office, I had a new email from my manager saying that the priorities and tasks had changed.
Oh, changing subject. Now that we know the typical day of a corporate job, how did you enter this corporate world?
Well, it was pretty straightforward. I applied for an entry position at my current corporation about 7 years ago and I got it.
Oh, how have you been working for the same company for 7 years?
Ha 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 ha. No. After 2 years on the company, I asked for a 2% raise. They said I couldn't go beyond 1.2%, so I applied for a different company and got a new position with a 5% raise.
Oh, how did you end up getting on your starting company again?
Well, after 2 years on the new company, I asked for a 2% raise, but they said I couldn't go beyond 1.2%, so I applied for a different company and got a new position with a 5% raise.
By a different company, you mean the one you are on now, right?
No, it was a different company. After 2 years on the new company, I asked for a 2% raise. They said I couldn't go beyond 1.2%, so I applied for the company where I started and got a new position with a 5% raise.
Very interesting stuff. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Thank you very much for coming. Is there anything else you want to say to our audience?
Thank you for having me. You can follow me on LinkedIn. The more LinkedIn followers, the better for the corporate world. Remember to keep posting on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best social media. Thank you.
I hope we have you again here someday. And thank you for watching. We hope you have enjoyed the show. If so, please remember to share, like and subscribe.